Alright y'all, it's official. I'm now in possession of a big metal rod. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video in a 350Z build series. In the last video, we went ahead and fixed the passenger side door handle and installed Apple CarPlay in my car, and I've been driving it, and let me say it's been a big improvement since having passengers able to actually get in the car and not having to connect to a wireless stereo system through a Bluetooth receiver that's then connected to my phone, that's then using FM radio waves to transmit it. It's been great, and I really do love having Apple CarPlay. However, since driving this car, several things has happened, and I'm sorry to say that the car in its current state is undrivable. I mean, this car was only $4,500 and is a little bit higher miles, so I knew it would come with some issues, but in the 2 years in which I've owned it, it's been having two major issues that have been plaguing me, and one of them has been rearing its head a lot more often than others, and that's having terrible, god-awful battery drain in the front bumper. It's seen better days. So what we're gonna do in this video is we're gonna fix everything wrong with this car and get it back on the road. Yeah, that's not great. That's no good at all. So we're finally underneath the car, and you can see here there's two rusted bolts barely holding in the bottom pan together. It's bent all along the side. There's a big gap all the way over here. You can actually see a large amount of the wiring and piping exposed, and I don't think this is going back on, so we might as well just remove the whole thing. And for those of you saying you can definitely put it back on, I'm not trying hard enough. I don't know if you want to put that back on. This whole thing is completely torn apart. You can find one of these for cheap, so that's the good news. But the bad news is that it's not looking too great. Okay, so as you can see here, we have the entire rear splash shield out. It wasn't too hard. It's just a couple of two 10mm bolts. This bolt ended up coming out relatively easy, but on the opposite side, the bolt actually ended up shearing clean off. So when I go to buy a new one of these to replace it, the part, and you can see here, it has a big rip here, it's bent and whatever. When I go to buy the replacement part for it, we're going to have a problem properly mounting it at the rear. This is definitely one of the things that need to get done because the car was having issues with this dragging along the ground, which unfortunately means that now the underside of the car is exposed, but at the same time, it does make it less of a hassle to drive. So this is the next big problem. So as you can see here, we have my battery connected to this new Oversteer battery that I bought from Walmart. Now my car's been having issues with randomly dying. It likes to die, even if you just park the car in a corner somewhere, it'll just completely shut off. And by popping the hood, it seems to jiggle something in here. My theory is that these connectors, because this is a very old car, I tightened them down. But my theory is that these connectors somehow got so loose that it's causing contact to not properly be made with the battery. And that's causing issues. Now, of course, we do have a fuse box right here that we can check for fuses. It's possible that the alternator is dead. It's possible that the battery's dead. There's so many things happening. But even if the car's been driving for 35 minutes perfectly fine, as soon as you go to shut it off, it will just completely die. But then popping the latch causes it to turn on again. Not exactly sure why it's doing that, but that's something that I definitely want to investigate. So here I've completely removed the battery from the car. Now what I have is a battery tender, something simple, a 4-amp one, and we can see that the battery may or may not be dead. So something in the car is causing the battery to drain. Not exactly sure what or why, but right now we do have the battery off to the side charging, and if you go to where the terminal is, we can see that this negative side terminal is actually pretty gross, pretty nasty. So we're gonna take some wire brush and clean it up, and that's what we have. On nothing but a whim, I decided to check the antenna that's on the side of the car. And the rubber pieces broke completely off. So now I have this big long antenna for a car that I don't use the antenna for. So I'm thinking maybe we go to AutoZone. I'm hearing people say that you can just paint the rubber cap on the antenna and it works just the same. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but nonetheless, let's see if we can make something work. And you can bet your sweet ass that's exactly what I did. I am not paying $20 for a radio antenna. What the fuck does this look like? It is not 2005. I would never pay for a radio antenna. I'm breaking that shit clean off.
3 weeks later.
Okay, so as some of you probably noticed, it's been a while since we last worked on the car, from when the first half of this video was filmed and what you're seeing right now. And the reason for that is because budgeting is actually really hard. You see, I decided to go on Facebook Marketplace to look up car parts, and I had been looking for a new set of wheels and a shift knob this entire time. Now, the reason why the car is still up on jack stands is because I thought I could replace the brakes, the wheels, and anything that I had to do for the calipers all at once. Turns out people on Facebook Marketplace surprisingly stingy, but I'm not going to give up yet. We still have about 1,800, call it 1750 in our budget, so I think I can get a good pair of tires and wheels on Marketplace for, let's say, $400. Now, we still have to replace that shift knob because it's faded. I found a couple of Mishimoto heavy weighted shift knobs, and I'm hoping that I could probably talk them down to 35, 30 if we're lucky. And with the cost of gas being what it is, I will have to do some driving, but my theory and my thought process is that as long as I'm able to get those two things, the shift knob and the wheels, for under $450, I'll consider it to be a success. Now, we do have to address the elephant in the room: rotors, pads, and other brake wear items. I'm gonna call my local O'Reilly's and see if they do rotor resurfacing. It's basically where they take a giant lathe and kind of grind down or smooth off the rotors and then give it back to you. A new set of rotors and pads from the cheapest places you could possibly think of online for the Nissan 350Z, running about $200, $250, $270 if you get something that's actually from like a big box store. That's not that bad, but with every dollar counting, I think we might be worth seeing if they can just get a set done for maybe $75. Let's call and find out.
Alright.
Hey, good afternoon. I was wondering if you guys still offered rotor resurfacing?
We do, but the guy that does it is not here today.
Oh, he's not there today. Do you know when he might be in again by any chance?
Tuesday or Wednesday latest, to be honest.
Tuesday or Wednesday latest. Okay, and like, do you know what the going rate is for like a set of 4 rotors?
SUV or a car?
Car.
25 for each side.
25 per each side or per each rotor?
Per rotor.
Per rotor? Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
All right, no problem.
Well, there we have it. It costs roughly what I thought it would, 25 for each rotor, meaning that it's $100 all in for some rotors, and with some pads, you could probably pick up a cheap set for, I don't know, 70. So at $170, is it worth getting my rotors resurfaced as opposed to just having an entire set ordered and then waiting a week to put them on? Maybe. I'm not too sure, but I guess we'll find out and see. But for now, with the power of this MacBook in front of me, I'm gonna go harass people on Facebook Marketplace, and I'll see you guys when I'm done. So as y'all can see behind me, we just got a set of tires. These are the Konig Oversteers. This tire is a little bit bald. This tire has good thread on it, so these will have to get replaced, but for now, they'll be perfectly fine. Probably put the more bald ones in the front, but these are a great deal. Barely any curb rash, one dent in it. Now we're on the way to go and get a proper shift knob. 30-minute drive, but hey, it's $35 for Mishimoto. I really can't complain. All right, y'all, it's official. I'm now in possession of a big metal rod. Yep, this is a Mishimoto weighted shifter. It's about 340 grams. It is heavy as hell, and I can't wait to install it in the car. It's probably gonna burn every time I shift in the summer, but $35, 30-minute drive, I really can't complain. So let's go home. Here we can see the wheels in direct sunlight. These are actually black wheels. I know that they make these in opal and silver, but these are in black. I couldn't tell at first. There's a thin layer of dust on it, well, a thick layer of dust on it. But these are the wheels that are gonna go on the car. You can see here, with the thread rather low. So these will be going in the front. So the hope is that the more nicely threaded wheels down here will go in the back, because this is a rear-wheel drive car. So we will take this and put it in the back, put these in the front, and as soon as we get the chance, we're definitely gonna replace those, because those aren't great. Actually, upon further inspection, every wheel except for this wheel. This wheel, we can walk over here. This wheel, and this wheel, all these wheels suck. Well, we can see here we got a good look of the rotors, and we can see that it's glazed. It's completely and utterly glazed. These things are smooth, and I can't see the wear on the brakes, but I can tell you that these rotors definitely haven't been replaced in a while. These caliper clips are completely rusted as well. Take a listen to that. Yeah, looks like we're gonna need some new pads, but hey, it's part for the course. Let's get the other wheel on. Here's a view of the tires from the outside. Not bad. I'm not a fan of black wheels personally, but I would say that the fitment definitely requires us to get some meatier tires. But all in all, for 450 bucks, I could spray paint these silver. I could put these in silver. Now let's move on to the shift knob. So the first question that a lot of you are gonna have is why? Why get a completely different shift knob? What's wrong with the shift knob that comes with the 350Z? And if you recall, the shift knob is worn out, it's leather, it's cracking, and it's generally, this is okay. It's a decent shift knob. But the reason why I bought this is because it's a weighted shift knob, which means that in theory, you should be able to slide in and out of gears simpler without missing shifts or having any other problem that you would normally have. Now, according to what the person I bought this from said, this should be 390 grams. It's pretty damn heavy. It's kind of like holding a tungsten cube. Now, this is unoptimal in the summer or the winter because it's made out of pure machined metal. It can't be that bad. The leather shift knob that I have right now is currently already burning me. So if I'm just switching to a metal one that's overall nicer, will wear and tear less, then I suppose I can make a compromise in that sense. Okay, so here we have our shift knob and our new Mishimoto shifter. You can see here overlapped that they are not the same size at all. Now, removing this is relatively simple. All we want to do is just take this handle like we did in our last tutorial and lift it up. Now, people say you can use a credit card. I'm not using a credit card. I don't care that much. And the reason why we have to lift this up is because there's a metal rod beneath here that's basically moving our shifter. And so what we have to do is we have to turn this handle, but we don't want it to freely spin. So the next best thing, of course, after lifting it up, is to use a set of channel locks or vice grips. And we want to hold that ring in place so it doesn't move freely. So what you want to do is you want to look for the metal down here. Take your vice grips. I don't know if mine are set correctly. And it's fully on there. So in theory, if we hold on to it, it should prevent it from spinning freely.
15 minutes later.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Okay. And there you have it. We've completely and successfully removed the shift knob. Side by side comparison. And then the vice grip was obviously to avoid turning this thing and then having the entire transmission, basically wiggle in its own place. So with that being said, we can put this back together and screw the new rod on. So this is the shift knob officially on. It's definitely something else, but I'm not loving the way that the collar, because this one had all this extra space around it. I'm not loving the way that the collar is fitting here. I'm wondering if there's not something I can do about that. Well, I did my best to see if I can get this collar to properly sit with the Mishimoto shift knob, and unfortunately I think there's just too much give. So I'll probably find some way, whether it's a zip tie or something, but I would prefer for it to sit higher up. But the shift knob does feel pretty good. As opposed to this, I do prefer the rounder feel, but I would say that overall I really It feels great. Okay, moment of truth time. I've done a quick drive up this block, make sure that my wheels didn't completely fall off, but I've yet to actually drive the car properly. So let's throw the car in gear. Let's get moving. So far, first impressions, a lot of rattling coming from this ring around the shift knob. Not exactly sure if it's necessary for me to keep that on. To be honest with you, I'm probably going to remove it just because I feel like it's not serving a purpose, especially without the stock shifter. Overall, everything else that's wrong with the car is still wrong with the car. Brakes still cooked, everything's still falling apart. But the main difference is that now the shift into first to second, or the shift from first from second, is relatively smoother. That rattling is going to drive me insane though. I'm not a fan of that. Definitely want to make sure to get that replaced. So right now I'm literally keeping my finger or my hand rather on the shift knob, preventing it from moving any further, just so that it doesn't rattle the entire time I'm on a test drive. Overall, it feels wonderful, it feels fantastic, and I think I couldn't ask for more in terms of a shifter. It makes the car feel special, like it's unique, like it has a sort of character outside of just being a stock car. And I think when you're modifying your car, that's the best thing you can ask for. Okay, let's review. We got a set of Konig Oversteers with a set of ball tires attached to them for around $450. Originally I wanted it to be $400, but the guy had it at $5, so meeting me halfway wasn't the end of the world. We got ourselves a Mishimoto weighted shift knob for $35, down from $50. After a quick battery charge, the battery drain issue seemed to be completely resolved after tightening everything down and cleaning the terminals. The Stubby antenna mod, of course, was free due to my ingenuity, and the bottom rocker panel being removed was also free, but it did fix the dragging. Now, all in all, we have spent roughly $640 and we have $1,360 left. So in the next video, let's go get some brakes and hopefully get this car running a lot less rough.